Hi, and welcome to the third SuperIntuitive video. In this video, we're going to um, I'm going to demonstrate the page menu, and we can fix some of the issues with this home page here. All right, so to get to the page menu, click on Tools and then Page, and a window will pop up. Let me go from just top to bottom, I guess. The top, we have the path of the page, business unit. It's the same thing as a subdomain. It's just the way that I'm tracking it in code in the background. Domain is the domain, whether you're local host or you're facebook.com or whatever. It's the domain. And and then the directory is the directory. Let's see what happens if I change the directory and I click save. So if I reload it, we're gonna have a problem. We don't have a home page anymore. All we have is hello. So it brought us to the 404 page, which also looks like it needs some styling help. Like I said, I'm a programmer, not a designer. So we don't want to really keep it called hello. So let's make it our home page again, and we'll do that by saving it again, and then we reload this. Of course, it's not going to get there, but we can go back here. Okay, so that's how basically you can change the name of a page. Just type it in there and hit save, and the last location will no longer exist, and the next location will. I don't really recommend you do that too much, especially once you get your site up and running. That will wreak havoc on SEO. What you probably better off doing is to redirect a page if you really want one page to not exist anymore. You should give it a redirect to somewhere else, like even back to the home page is fine, or back to a page that says this page no longer exists, or the 404 page or whatever, or make a custom page that suits you. Okay, so where were we? We're talking about the page here, the page menu. All right, in below that's metadata, meta tags. Here, let me bring up the meta. So if we open up the head, we can see all this meta stuff right here. Right. Um, the the title changes the title. The this icon, I can change the icon if for some reason I don't like that little circle there. If I wanted to like change it into this beach sunset that you see in the background, I can do that. Um, just all it really needs to do is just have the image um, in the media directory in order to show up there. And if I click on more here, you'll see all of all of this stuff right here is available to be edited here. Okay. All right. So here we can do things like change the background color of the page, change the padding, margin, border, and then here's where we can deploy the page. There's these traffic light up here, and green is dev, yellow is test, and red is live. And so in order to deploy, it's kind of a little crazy because you can't deploy to dev. You're on dev, so the green light actually deploys you to test. That means you're giving it the green light to go to test. And then once it's tested, you can click on the yellow light, and the yellow light will make it live. And the red light will actually take a copy and put it somewhere else called a rollback. And once you're live and you've been live for a week and you don't have any kind of issues or anything like that, and everything's great, and then you can click on that red and it will promote it to rollback. Um, what this helps prevent is if you go live and you get, someone's, your customers or whoever starts telling you about issues on your website all of a sudden, then you can get the data from the rollback and put it back into the live, and everything um, should work just the way it did before you promoted test to live. And then so you go back to test and figure out, find the bug, and then you go back to dev and you fix the bug. All right, everything in SuperIntuitive is built on blocks. A block, every block has a database row, um, and it's a little bit tricky because a block can be on several pages. The data here is unique to this page. So when a block is saved out, it saves it in two different places in the database, depending on what you're actually saving. So if you're saving, if it's saving the options, all right, which I'm pretty sure it does on change here, then it's going to save it into the, because blocks are actually just a reference of the block. Um, so so that way, if I make changes to the HTML on the block on this page, for example, I move that and I save it, that move is going to show up on every page. So if I go to About, and since the About uses the header block, it's going to show up, that change will show up there. This is good in some respects and limiting in others. So one of the ways that I tried to make it so it wasn't so limiting was to instance the block, and in the actual instance data is where it saves this stuff. So if I change anything in here, it only affects the block on this page. And this isn't a block, by the way. This is an element. The block is anything that you see that's highlighted in blue, not gold. If it's yellow, or if it's highlighted in yellow or gold, then it's an element. But if it's highlighted in blue, it's a block, and it can have lots of different elements inside of it. And you can save the elements inside of the menu block separately than you save the elements inside of the header block or the footer block. And okay, that being said, the actual style of the block doesn't get saved with the block. It gets saved with the instance of the block. So, and believe it or not, that actually does give you quite a bit more flexibility when it comes to blocks. It enables you to not only have say we had a this menu block, for example. Say it works great here on this page, but on a different page, I want it further down. So I want it, down much further, like this. So because I don't know, there's some texture or is different up here. All of the styles that are directly associated with the block get saved with an instance of the block, a relation. There's a database table called relations, and in that table, it basically says, okay, this is the block and this is the page, or this page has these 5 blocks. All right, and then it goes and it gets the block HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and then it and then from the relation it gets another set of options that populate here. So it really gives it a little more flexibility than just not being able to move it around. And you can always add extra styles to the block. You just go in here and pick a style if you need it, and click on add style, and it will add the new style. So data gets saved in a block. So if I let's see here, this is too small because this blocks over the overflow is obviously visible, set to visible, but it's still too. It doesn't. I don't like it, even though it's invisible and it doesn't really matter. I'm just gonna try to fix it so that it's it's still too big there. All right, that'll be fine for now. And then height, and let's just set this back to 100 because I really don't want it down there. And then we'll save it. All right. Login, the login block, footer. Now there's an issue with the footer block. It's actually really kind of new. And I probably should have solved this before I built it into the installer. I'm gonna have to export a new installer, which is basically just a SQL dump, with a couple of edits to it. But the issue with this is it's not a footer if it's not all the way on the bottom, and for some reason it's stuck a little bit high up. So I think the issue is that it's absolute when it doesn't need to be. If we make it static, there we go. That's what I'm looking for out of a footer. Just like that. Now the only problem is, look what happened to our text. Our footer text ended up way up here. That can happen when you fundamentally change stuff. So it's not a big deal. All we need to really just do is just go in and bring it back to where it's supposed to be. Oops. Here, I get a better idea. We'll just click on edit, and then first off I want to get rid of this fragment that seems to have keeps popping up when I create the installer. I promise you I don't have that in there when I create the installer, but for some reason it keeps coming back. And then from here, if we just clear these out and we go down here, we'll find out that it's right there. And if we wanted to move it, yeah, sometimes depending on the parent, you get some issues with moving, and sometimes you have really no choice but to clear it, and then in any way, when you move it by dragging it, it sets it always in pixels. I'm not sure I want that in pixels. Maybe what I want to do is to say, let's see, the top is I don't know. Wait a minute. Oh, I see what the problem is. Okay, this is what's messing me up. The positioning on this little text right here is also absolute. Okay, so look, this is all HTML and CSS kind of related like issues. So it's just the way that it works, and it's next to impossible to program around. It's the way that it's supposed to work, and sometimes it's not what you'd be expecting. But all right, now the thing about static is static. You can't have a top and a left. So what we need to make it is relative. Alright, once we make it relative, then perhaps we want to float it to the right side of the page. And then I think it needs to come off the top some more. It's just, what's this thing? It's about 300 pixels high, so why don't we put it down like 200 pixels down? And it's real close to the edge of the screen, so it doesn't look very good over there. So if we go back, we can go into, let's see, go into styles here, and then here, let me drag this whole thing down here so we can see what we're doing. And then from here we can go to let's see, let's give it a right margin. If we can find it, it's in here somewhere. Margin, where is it? There you go, margin right. Let's just give it a right margin, and we can just drop it in there until it looks good. Let's see, I don't know, maybe 200. All right, so now that way, instead of having these absolute, these pixel values that can be dangerous when it comes to resizing, this way, it'll always look like it's similar, in a good position when it comes to resizing. Okay. All right. So let's save the footer block, and then let me hit reload just to make sure everything got saved right. Yep, it looks much better now. It's, instead of the footer being way up here in the middle of the image, it's down here, and the fragment's fixed and everything, and it resizes okay. It doesn't get pushed off the screen. Okay, so one last thing we want to do. I just want to show you this real quick. Look, this is what it used to look like, right? It doesn't look very good. All right, but if we go back to here, this is test actually, and it still doesn't look very good. But if we go back to dev, we're in good shape here. So how do we promote the block? So we'll go into the page menu, and then we'll scroll down, and it's actually also extremely granular how you can promote a block here. We'll click on this little shovel. You can promote the HTML from a block. So if I click that, and then I'll try to do this as fast as possible. If I click that, and here I'll click that too, and then if I just go to live, you'll notice the block's still screwed up, but at least that fragment is missing, and the text, the inner HTML of the block is good. And then so we'll go back to dev, and then whoops, and then let's see here. We don't need this bottom right here, so I'm going to lose it because it's static. It doesn't do anything. Everything else we need the 100%, we need the height, and we need the fact that it's got a color that's different from the background of the body background color. And the options is this stuff, options. Anything here will get promoted with options. So since we changed it to static and this stuff, when I promote options, it's gonna look good. Now when I go back to the live page, it's fixed because it's been promoted, and I also brought it up through test too. So it's really simple to promote stuff here, almost too simple. And I know that because I've been in the field for quite some time. Sometimes it can be too simple to make it to do stuff that affects production. So I think that's about where I'm going to call this video at, or around the 20-minute mark. So I'm going to let you go here, and in the next video, I guess we'll talk about the media, the media menu. That should be a really quick, 3-minute video. It's self-explanatory. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.